I have to say it that way. I want to be very careful, right? But now it has gotten to a position. I hope the Democrats are listening to this, especially the Senate. Okay, I wanted to highlight what Random said. Smart people aren't having kids these days, and it's sad that it's getting to that point where here in America, people are saying, "Well, I don't even want to have children. I don't even want to have children. I'm scared." And, I don't want people to get to that point, but look at how we're in a government shutdown. Look, and not only that, you have these so-called sanctuary states. They're so scared now, right? When it comes down to trying to see how to say it, when it comes down to abortion, right? You have hospitals that are scared to even do that if the fetus is so many weeks old. Some states are not even allowed to do it. Oops. But thank you guys for coming in. You're listening to Politigram. Shout out to everybody in the live. Hello, Kathy. Kathy says, and I wonder why that is. I really do, because I'm sorry, if it was today, I would not want to have a child either. I want to know my child is coming home from school and alive and unharmed. Kathy, you said it, right? Look at everything that has been going on. Look at everything that has been going on here. Shout out to Kathy. Just Me says, nonprofit only has to give 5% of the money they get to public. 95% can go to bills and payroll. Argentina sends a lot of things to the US. Just Me says, I had 9 kids and I have 10 grandchildren and 2 more on the way. Whoa. Many blessings, Just Me. Now, I will say this, right? Because of a lot of things that's going on here in America, I mean, we have so many, kids and people coming from broken homes, right? I mean, heck, here in Georgia, there was a teenager that went to a high school and unalived students and a teacher. No, students and teachers. What makes it so bad, they ended up not only arresting him, but arresting his father. What makes it so bad, his mother used to be a teacher, but she became an addict. What makes it so bad, who is raising the children now? Because this teenager, he had siblings. She doesn't have custody. The father's in jail. So I say that to say, it's too much going on. And it's sad that now, because people are afraid, they're not comfortable taking their children to schools. They're not comfortable to taking their children to daycare. I mean, you have to be so careful, right, of who you have your children around. And then not only that, right, look at what's going on when it comes down to the hospitals being understaffed. And Joy, shout out to Joy. Joy says, shout out to Joy. Joy says, has everyone in the chat called your senators? And shout out to Joy. I want you guys to understand this. Be the voice. Be the voice. And the way you are the voice right now, especially during this government shutdown, Joy said it best. Call your senators. Vote. Because a lot of these senators, they think they have it made in the shade. A lot of these senators, they have been in their role for decades. Just me says social media makes people more scared than anything else. I will say this. This is why here on this platform I always give positive affirmations. When I always stand on it, and shout out to Joy. Joy, will be the first one to say, what? Kindness is contagious. Do something kind for someone today, right? And then me, I'll even say, if you do nothing else, pray for yourself, check on yourself, your welfare being, and do something for someone. And doing something for someone doesn't mean monetarily. It could be just speaking to someone, making somebody's day. I'm reading the comments. Someone says, what happened to Black Lives Matter and supporting Black community? My thing is this. I'm gonna respectfully say this. When former Vice President Harris apologized to Jamal True Love, then we can talk about the Black community and Black Lives Matter. Because evidently, she doesn't care about Black Lives Matter. Moving forward, and also will say this, not only does Harris not care about Black Lives Matter, Oprah Winfrey doesn't care about Black Lives Matter, Tyler Perry doesn't care about Black Lives Matter, Al Sharpton doesn't care about Black Lives Matter. They only care about what you put in their pockets. Since you put that out there, somebody said it in the chat. Okay? See, I don't play those tit for tat games. See, on this platform, just like life, just like here in America, right? Just like immigrants come here in America, right? They're here. I'll tell you right now, immigrants are not only Black. Hello? Tell you that now. It's not only Black people here in America. It's not only white people here in America either. Amen. This is a land of the free. This is land of unity, united, where we stand. Right? So you can take that Black Lives Matter to Oprah, or better yet, take it to Diddy and R. Kelly. How about that? Or take it to O.J. Simpson. Take it to O.J. Simpson. How about that? Because where was the quote unquote Black Lives Matter for O.J.? And I took it there. I said what I said. But thank you guys for coming in. You're listening to Politic Ground. And I'm saying this to say, we have to come together. Right? We have to come together. Please call your senators. Please call your senators, please. Because I'm telling you right now, people want to sit here and say Black community, we have to, quote unquote, be the voice for all. And the reason I said what I said, because somebody in the comments, I'm not going to say their name. The reason I spoke like that just now, because, I'm going to be honest, when it comes down to that community that they just mentioned, I feel like that community let Harris down. I feel like that community let Joe Biden down. Just being honest. I feel like that community, you know what, I'm leaving it alone. Thank you guys for coming in. You're listening to Politic Ground. Kathy Hall says California is suing Trump for stopping food stamp. I think everybody's suing Trump right now. And that's being honest. I think everybody that's not in a red state is suing Trump because they can't get what they want. They can't have their way. They want it to still be give me, give me, give me, give me, but not have a plan. Going back into the comments. Thank you guys for coming in. You're listening to Politic Ground. Divide and conquer, and divided we fall. You said it best, Jeff. This is why we have to stay united. And as part of being united, please call your senators and tell them to get us out of a shutdown. Or better yet, please tell your senators, can you have their check? Thank you so much for coming in. Going back into the comments, someone says money for Argentina is already start getting back. No. The money was already approved. It's kids with, wait a minute. I'm not going to say that part, Jesus. Wait a minute, Jesus. Lloyd, I said that because somebody ignorant in the comments they said an ignorant statement, so I gave an ignorant response. That's why I said that, Lloyd. Let's use our critical thinking caps. So I said that to say, you want to be ignorant? I'm going to be ignorant right along with you. Ignorant is when you say, oh, well, what about the Black community? Black community, I'm just being honest. Black community was so much together, right? You wouldn't have so many Blacks locked up in prison. How about that? If the Black community was so together, right? It makes no sense for somebody to be in prison and then decades later come to find out through DNA they were innocent. So when you come at me about this black community and DEI, I want you to have that same energy with all the majority Blacks locked up in prison. I want you to have that same energy. I'm not talking about Diddy. Diddy can go wherever he want to go as long as he's not near me. I'm not talking about the Diddies. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the Diddies. So Lloyd, the reason I said what I said was because somebody in the chat gave an ignorant statement. That's why I said what I said. That's why. Okay. But thank you guys for coming in. Chuck Schumer, I think Chuck Schumer, I don't want to say Chuck Schumer is doing it for money, because I'm still standing on it in the sense that based off what I looked up between him and his wife, together they're both worth $7 million. Yes, that is a lot of money for some people, yes. But for him to $7 million for him, as long as he's been in politics, that is, I don't see that being a reason for him to, be holding out. I don't think. I think Chuck Schumer, he likes the position that he's in. However, I think Chuck Schumer needs to, he needs to do the same thing when it comes down to Nancy Pelosi, and I'll leave it at that. But thank you guys for coming in. You're listening to Politickgram. Hit that like button. We do have a question in the chat, right? A live poll. Which party do you trust? 47% says Republican, 24% says Democrat, 12% says Independent, 17% says I plead the fifth. Now, I will say this, okay? Now, and somebody in the comments says white neighborhoods are the best. I can't say that either, because you do have white poverty too. So I would never say that. Right? That's why I always tell people, poverty has no color. Right? Poverty has no color. Has no color, it has no race. Hell, you have a lot of immigrants come over here poor. Come on now. You have a lot of people over here. It has no color. We have to get out of that. And Desmond says African Americans are starting to connect with the continent of Africa. This would give them a second option to lift up to uplift their situation in America. I cannot agree with that because I actually went to school with Africans, and they said they told me in my face, they said I'm not, they said, quote unquote, they said I'm black, but they said what they said you're not African. They said you're black, you're not African. That's what they told me in my face. So as far as what can help the community over here in America, I think that it starts with investing in the quote unquote various communities. And when I say investment, I don't mean disinvestment. I don't mean bad investment. I don't mean quote unquote we just need to come together. And coming together means educating one another. Coming together means, right, when you see something, report it. Just like you should call your senator right now. See, I talk on that level. See, now I'm coming on that level right now on this platform because we are in a government shutdown. Because I have a loved one right now that's still in the hospital. I'm still upset. I can't even talk to some of my family members right now. I can't even talk to them because I have one family member, hadn't been too long, became a social worker. How is it this social worker has not visited my loved one for months since they have been ill? And now my loved one can't even speak. This is the life we live in. Welcome to the land called life. But thank you guys for coming in. You're listening to Politic Graham. So this is why I say we have to, stop all this, this blaming and closing one another up. I feel we need to work together. And this is why I disagree when billionaire Oprah Winfrey, instead of her putting a school here in America, she put a school in Africa. This is the same continent where Africans, they would tell you, and I'm telling you, I went to school with a lot of them. They said, I'm not black, I'm African. I'm not black. They put black with being American. They say, I'm not black, I'm African. There's a difference. So why would you put a school in a country that has already disconnected from you? And the only reason that they connect with you is because of your money, Oprah Winfrey. Desmond says, I disagree with the host. Every black person in the world has the original. Well, Desmond, I didn't say DNA, right? I'm telling you what some of the Africans that I went to school with says. I'm telling you that. This is how they do. But I will say this, when it comes down to Africans, one thing I love about Africans, they stick together, they work together, they know the definition of unity, of community, of really working together and helping your man. We don't have that. When I say we don't have that here, look at your Congress. Your Congress right now, right? Between the House of Senate Democrats and the Republicans, they can't even come together to help you and I, to help the federal employees, to help the SNAP recipients, to help the WIC, and Lord and behold, to help the farmers. So Desmond, and I'm trying not to get emotional. I feel it. I went to a school. I'm not going to say what college. I'm not going to say it. I went to a college. When you speak about Black community, it was the Africans, it was the Asians that didn't mind telling me about a scholarship. Would you like to know what my African American peers did? When they found out that I was studying with the Africans, I was studying with the Asians, I was studying with this white person, you know what they did? They shunned me. Only time they found out was when the professors gave me an award. And I am in this state of Georgia. I am in the records. I'm not going to say the school. And that was the only time I was acknowledged, when I received a very, very big award. That time, only that time, a Black person, an African American woman approached me and said, and I quote, "I didn't know you was that smart." That's the community we're speaking about. So I say all of this to say, ladies and gentlemen, in order to be successful, you have to know how to talk to everybody and get along. And, you don't have to agree with them, right? But at least talk and communicate and, have the objective, know the same objectives that you share to come to a resolution of success. But thank you guys for coming in. You're listening to Politic Graham. Try not to get emotional, but thank you so much. I just had to get that off my chest because, hello, Sunspot. Shout out to Alabama. Sunspot says, "What up, ATL?" Shout out to Alabama. Hello, Sunspot. But like I stated, we have to come together. It is what it is. Take it for what it is. Now, the question today we have in this live: which party do you trust? Okay. 47% says Republican, 24% says Democrat, 12% says Independent, 17% says I plead the fifth. Someone in the comments says the host needs to understand that slavery damaged the psychology of both African Americans as well as Africans living on the continent. Desmond, have you ever visited Africa? That's my question, and that's a genuine question. Have you ever traveled to Africa? Okay, because a lot of people over here they have became Americanized, so we can't include a lot of them that's over here. Just say, just like JD Vance's wife. Okay, and the reason I say that because JD Vance, he said it himself. He said that, when it comes down to the unity that him and his wife share, he says his wife and him, when they met, they were atheists. His wife, even though she was raised as Hindu, they were both, quote unquote, agonists, almost somewhat atheists. Then to top it all off, he even said, even right now, how they raise their children as Christians. So, when it comes down to you saying, this person in the chat, saying, oh, well, the host needs to understand that slavery damaged psychology of both African Americans as well as Africans living on the continent. Well, then how can you explain JD Vance's wife? Just saying. Just saying. See, I speak in the terms of, all races. Because if we're going to use that argument when it comes down to psychology, right? Let's speak on the terms of, how when it comes down to how some immigrants come over here and they end up becoming Americanized, even though they have in their DNA one way. So, I'm speaking about, who I'm just going to say, people saying in the comments. I'm not going to say no names because I don't want to put them out there. But I'm just responding to comments in the chat. And one thing about this platform, I don't ever want to shun anybody out. I don't want to ever just cut anybody out of the, chat. But this is a topic that, some people are, talking about it. Someone in the comments says, my ex-husband is Nigerian and he didn't have that mindset at all. Well, just being honest, everybody is not the same, right? But I'm telling you right now, I went to school, there was a line. And the line was, when it came down to Africans, when it came down to Africans, they were the ones that told me, quote unquote, support. When it came down to scholarships, they were the ones that connected me. Just being honest. When it came down to Asian, so, this is just, my experience. I live in a city where it is, it is basically the land of Tyler Perry. Sorry. So when you coming from that aspect, Tyler Perry, he does not put any money into the communities that are in need of help. And it's kind of odd that when it comes down to Tyler Perry, he comes from New Orleans, Louisiana. Shout out to Mike Johnson. But my thing is this, think about it. When it comes down to the crime, the poverty in Louisiana, how is it Tyler Perry didn't put his studio in Louisiana? No, he came to Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm just, and I will say this, when it comes down to Tyler Perry, a lot of people still support him. A lot of people, be honest, had it not been for a community that a lot of people are speaking about in the chat, he wouldn't be the billionaire that he is today. But the question is, how much of that has he put back into those same communities that helped him be where he is today? So just, this is just my views, and when it comes down to Tyler Perry, there's a reason he moves the way he moves right now, because a lot of students at these HBCU institutions here in Atlanta, probably about 5 or 7 years ago, they were upset with Tyler Perry. Why? Because what Tyler Perry would do, he would fly people in like Taraji P. Henson and not help the people who are going to school for acting here in Atlanta. So, Denise says, let me read. Denise says he also said he was originally raised in Catholic faith. He lost his faith as he was older, then came back to his faith. I'm going to say this, I don't want to question people's faith. I don't want to do that. All I'm going to say is this: when it comes down to Tyler Perry, I just want him to, be what he says and what he speaks about in his movies. I'll just leave it at that. What he teaches about in his movies, because he always has a story, right? A lesson, a blessing, a lesson. I want him to be that, what he speaks about in his movies that he writes, in his shows that he writes. That's all. And I'm sorry I had to get to that. Going back, my apologies. But somebody in the comments, you throwed me off when you said I just had to have that conversation. You know, like I stated, it's too many people here in America that need the help. And I'm going to bring it back to, you know, we need to focus in about here in America, right? This is a country that is supposed to be one of the richest countries in the world, but So Random says, did something new happen? What happened to Tyler Perry? The reason I spoke about it, because somebody, I'm not gonna say their names, because they keep talking about the Black community, you know, and saying this. And I said, okay, I live in the city where Tyler Perry brought his studio, and he has not helped the communities. He hasn't. Nor has he helped students, and I've personally spoke to a number of them. Okay. See, me, I'm hands-on. I'm hands-on. It's one lady here in Atlanta by the name of Pinky Cole. She has a vegan restaurant that is nationwide, and she has done more than Tyler Perry. I personally know people that Pinky Cole, business owner of a vegan restaurant. I can't say the name for YouTube purposes, but she actually helped students from becoming homeless and helped them finish college and start their own business. I mean, I knew people where they were homeless, and they didn't even tell me and the co-workers that they were homeless until I saw them on the news. And fast forward, Pinky Cole came in, and not only did she help pay for these students' tuition, but she became a mentor. This is what I mean when I say help your not only community, but lock in here in America. Help the people here in America. So I want people to understand that. And Joy, shout out to Joy. Joy, you said it best. Charity begins at home. And shout out to Joy. Joy always says it, right? Kindness is contagious. Be kind. Do something kind today, right? I think if people here in America would focus in on things such as that, no matter what race, no matter what color, no matter what gender, no matter what country you come from, if you're here in America, do something that will be a change for somebody to do better. That's all. Oh, Georgia Maniac. Shout out to Georgia Maniac. Let me highlight you. Georgia Maniac says, hi, Graham. Remember, you're an amazing person and have a blessed day. Amen. Shout out to Georgia Maniac. And I want people to understand that, right? Shout out to Tricky. Shout out to So Random. Shout out to Desmond. Shout out to Joy. Shout out to Joy Carey. Shout out to Sunspot. Georgia Maniac says it best, right? I want you guys to know that too. You all are amazing people in this chat, right? You all are amazing people in this chat. And I thank you. And I genuinely mean that. Thank you. And the reason I say thank you, because without you guys, there would not be a PoliticGram platform. It wouldn't be it. But thank you guys for coming in. In the meantime, in between time, hit that like button, subscribe to the platform, and we do have a live poll. We're going to have a brief commercial break. There was a lot we talked about. Woo! You know what? It took a lot for me to have this type of conversation, right? But shout out to you guys for I had to have that conversation. Desmond, we're not finna go back and forth with that, because Desmond, I'm telling you right now, if we're talking about raw minerals, right, rare earth minerals, the country that has the most rare earth minerals is China. So you can take that. You can forget me with that one. If you don't believe me, look it up. Why do you think President Trump is going so far and beyond when it comes down to setting the tone for China and letting China know America is no longer going to be played? It's no longer going to be bending over for China. Why do you think Trump is doing this? Everything that's been going on specifically pertaining to China. So when you say raw minerals, look up China and then holler back at me. Look up China. Because the devices that I use, be it the phone, right, the television, right, 9 times out of 10, it comes from where? Asia. But thank you guys for coming in. You're listening to PoliticGram. We're going to have a brief quote unquote commercial break. Shout out to everybody in the live. So Random says, well, I think you're amazing for having this type of conversation. There's a lot of people that are not well informed. And shout out to So Random Ma. I will say this before I go to the commercial break. I always tell people, I never say I'm smart. I always, say educate me, right? This is a platform. If you feel like you disagree, look, tell me where I'm wrong. Educate me. But on the same note, let me educate you just like you're educating me, right? And I say that, to say this is a way, what I call having a open dialogue. And when you have an open dialogue, that is how you and I stay informed. But when you have a closed mind, closed shut, you'll be divided every time. That's why, this platform, I made this platform for us all having, conversation. Right? So shout out to everybody. And it's all love, Desmond. It's all love. And definitely shout out to So Random Mom. Thank you. I appreciate it so much. And hello, Gospel. Georgia Maniac says, true. Graham, people are still amazing. Even if we disagree, we might agree down the road. You're absolutely right. But thank you so much, you guys. And in the meantime, in between time, yes, we do have a live poll. Which party do you trust? 47% says Republicans, 25% says Democrat, 11% says Independent, and 7% says it's Thursday. It's too early for this. And before I get to that commercial break, if you would like to support the platform even more, and you would like your name to be in the blue banner going across the screen underneath the beautiful So Random Ma, we do accept super stickers to support this platform. Okay. And with that, your name will be in that blue banner for over a month. And some of these people that's in this blue banner that you're seeing going across the screen, they have been in this blue banner for 2 months. That's how I roll on this platform. Right. But thank you guys for coming in. You're listening to PoliticGram. Tricky, you said it right. This is our land. In the meantime, in between time, We do accept super stickers. Also, hit that like button, subscribe to the platform. And if you don't do nothing else, we do have a live poll where you will be anonymous. Which party do you trust? We do have a live poll. Which party do you trust? Republicans, Democrats, Independents, or do you just plead the fifth? Who's leading right now? 47% says they still trust the Republican Party. But thank you guys for coming in. We're going to have a brief, I promise you, less than 1 minute, a brief commercial break. This is Politigram.
You trust, sir, but we have a lot of great people.
My job as vice president is not to look out for the interests of the whole world. It's to look out for the people of the United States.
There's enough money to start feeding people right away.
The administration has done everything possible to bend over backwards.
The bottom line is they can fund it just as money for Argentina. They have enough money to keep funding SNAP.
Democrats and Republicans, which party do you trust?
Sir, but we have a lot of great people.
My job as vice president is not to look out for the interests of the whole world. It's to look out for the people of the United States.
There's enough money to start feeding people.
And hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. It's Tricky. It's Tricky says, I subscribe. Thank you so much. I appreciate it so much. Sunspot says, I don't trust none of them. And look, Sunspot, a lot of people said it in this chat. You're not the only one. And based off how the events have been transpiring right now, I think we're at that time right now. I'm going to be straight up. I don't trust them either. Okay. I don't trust neither party. I don't trust neither party right now, okay? Because it's been a lot of going back and forth. It's been a lot of pointing the finger. And at the end of the day, when all in all is said and done, we are still in a current government shutdown, right? We're still in a government shutdown. People's lives are being affected right now. And we are 5 days away. For those that don't know, the longest shutdown was 35 days back in 2018. That was the longest, right? We're 5 days away from being at that 35-day mark, right? So I'm telling you right now, if you guys don't do nothing else, shout out to Joy who said it in the chat. Please, I repeat, please. Call your senators, no matter what state you're in, please call your senators. And I'm not just talking about the Democrats, please. If you're Democrat, if you're Republican, please call your senators. Because I'm telling you right now, so help me God. If we get to that 35-day mark, so help me God. I'm holding all these people accountable. I don't want to hear nothing from no Hakeem. I don't want to hear nothing from no Chuck, aka Chucky. I don't want to hear nothing from no AOC. I don't want to hear nothing from no Jasmine Crockett. I'm serious. If we are not out this government shutdown in the next 5 days, I'm telling you, I might start doing lives twice a day because I'm going to be on the senator's tail. We got to do better. And look what's going on. And I want people to understand this when it comes down to events of Hurricane Melissa. For those that don't know, events that have transpired with Hurricane Melissa, I hope people just know, whatever you're going through right now, someone can always be in worse shoes. And one of the examples to that, look at what has transpired to her in regards to Hurricane Melissa. And for those that don't know, Hurricane Melissa has caused at least 28 people to be unalived across Haiti, Jamaica, the Dominican Republic. And yesterday, Melissa was moving away from the Bahamas and had turned towards Bermuda, which is expected to pass later in today. So now, currently, from what I'm looking at right now, according to the National Hurricane Center, Hurricane Melissa is heading towards Bermuda. In Jamaica, okay, my prayers goes out to Jamaica. I have to keep sending love and prayers out to people that have been affected, because now residents do not have a place to stay. According to reports, residents are staring at their roofless homes, waterlogged belongings. Emergency relief flights began landing at Jamaica Main International Airport, which reopened yesterday, as crews distributed water, food, and other basic necessities. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want you guys to understand, right? Be blessed and grateful that you're still here today, that you were able to wake up, because, you never know what might come tomorrow. You never know what tomorrow may bring. So thank you guys for coming in. You're listening to Politicgram. Now, how does Hurricane Melissa impact, quote unquote, here, as they say, here in America, when it comes down to the Trump administration? Remember when I said, we're in this government shutdown, right? But now you have the Hurricane Melissa that has impacted Jamaica, Cuba, and Haiti. When it comes down to Hurricane Melissa, now Trump has vowed, here comes President Trump. President Trump is pledging that the United States will help the island nations of Caribbean on humanitarian basis. In his words, we're watching it closely and we're prepared to move. It's doing tremendous damage as we speak. So I want people to understand this. Now we're in the position where now we have to, it's just a lot going on. And that's why I say I'm going to disagree with Argentina, with him loaning Argentina $20 billion. I got to disagree with it. Now, yesterday I didn't disagree with it because I didn't know everything about it. But once I found out about the president of Argentina, oh no. President of Argentina, he makes, you know what, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to make it seem like I'm showing favoritism. So I'm not going to do it. But thank you guys for coming in. You're listening to Politicgram. Prayers out to Jamaica. Prayers out to Haiti. Prayers out to Cuba. Now, when it comes down to Jamaica, more than 25,000 people remain in crowded shelters across western half of Jamaica, with 77% of the island without power. Think about what I just said. 77% of Jamaica has no power right now. And this is why I say, be grateful of whatever situation that you're in right now, because it could be worse. Now, when it comes down to, according to report, Hurricane Melissa also unleashed catastrophic flooding in Haiti, where at least 23 people were reported unalived and 13 others are missing, mostly in the country's southern region of Haiti. Another 17 people suffered injuries. Haiti's Civil Protection Agency said Hurricane Melissa unalived at least 20 people, including 10 children. It also damaged more than 160 homes and destroyed 80 others. Officials have warned that 152 disabled people in Haiti require emergency food assistance. And an additional 11,600 people in Haiti remain in shelter. Now, Cuba. Cuba has also been hit. However, according to reports, as of now, no fatalities have been reported in Cuba. However, civil defense evacuated over 735,000 Cubans. And they are slowly starting to return home. So this is what's going on when it comes down to Hurricane Melissa. But like I said, the hurricane warning was in effect early today for Bermuda. And according to the U.S. National Hurricane Center in Miami, it is heading to Bermuda. Central and southeastern Bahamas has already been hit with heavy rains and gusty winds. So please, ladies and gentlemen, let's keep them in our prayers. And you are listening to Politic Graham. Thank you so much for coming in. In the meantime, in between time, you're listening to Politic Graham. Thank you so much for coming in. Hello, how are you doing? This is a platform that welcomes everybody, no matter what race, culture, no matter what country you're in. We welcome everybody. Please hit that like button, subscribe to the platform. It's a platform that welcomes you, right? As long as you're respectful. In the meantime, in between time, we do have a live poll. Which party do you trust? Do you trust the Republicans? Do you trust Democrat? Do you trust Independent? Or you can just plead the fifth. And thank you guys for coming in. In the meantime, in between time, we're going to have a quote unquote brief, I repeat, brief commercial break. If you support the channel, we do accept super stickers to support the channel going across. We will put your name in the banner that is going across the blue screen underneath So Random Ma. And your name will be in this blue banner for over a month. Desmond says, after prayer, send them aid. We're gonna talk about that after this commercial break, because I have, I want to make sure I give the correct information when it comes down to where to send your funds as far as aid goes for the people of Jamaica, for the people of Cuba, as well as Haiti and soon to be Bermuda. I'm going to give the right information, because guess what is transpiring now? Now you have scammers. Now you have scammers taking advantage of the situation. That's why I say, please keep them in your prayers. But before we get into it, we're going to have a brief commercial break. You're listening to Politic Graham.
Democrats and Republicans, which party do you trust?
Sir, but we have a lot of great people.
My job as vice president is not to look out for the interests of the whole world. It's to look out for the people of the United States.
There's enough money to start feeding people right away.
The administration has done everything possible to bend over backwards.
The bottom line is they can fund it just as money for Argentina. They have enough money to keep funding SNAP.
Democrats and Republicans, which party
And hello, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Politigram. Thank you so much for coming in. Now, when it comes down to the aid, where to go if you would like to send aid, okay? I want to do my research even more when it comes down to the aid, okay? Where to send it, because now you have scamming, a lot of scamming going on, okay? People trying to make money by committing fraudulent activities during this horrible event when it comes down to Hurricane Melissa. So I want to make sure I give out the right information before I explain where to send it, okay? Desmond says this is when FEMA could have come in like Bill Clinton did. Now, Desmond, you do know when it comes down to FEMA, I want you to understand this. It's a lot of things that are, basically at a freeze right now. Okay? It's a lot of things that are at a freeze right now because of this government shutdown. Okay? I just want us all to be on the same page. Okay? And that is why, this government shutdown is very heavy. It's very heavy right now. So it's some things that, it's not going to be so easy peasy, as they say, because of this current government shutdown that we're in. Also, shout out to everybody in the live. Hello, Gina. Shout out to It's Tricky. Shout out to Doctor. I can't say your whole name. I don't think I can say the whole name. I'm gonna say Dr. 9512. But thank you guys for coming in. Shout out to Steve. Steve says, since I don't have courier driver delivery work today, I'll be working on music and my bounty tech business. Gonna go get some beers and whoa. Okay, Steve. But thank you guys for coming in. Marie says Trump spent $75 billion for his ICE police program. There has been billions and billions of dollars spent prior to Trump being in office that has been mishandled. Okay, I just want you to understand it when it comes down to the broken system that we have here. Should I say had? Okay. So because of that, and I'm still standing on that, that is the reason we're in this position right now. When it came down to the open borders, okay? Because it makes no sense for millions and millions to come in illegally, right? And then you have some that came over here the right way, legally, but how did the justice system or immigration system treat them? It's not fair for somebody to come over here. They come over here to do everything the right way, and they still are not given permanent citizenship. I think that's not right. But this is what happens when you have a broken system. You let everybody come over here. Everybody just come. The borders just open a boat, open a float. Everybody's coming in, all in, and there is no accountability. I think that was the problem. Now, when it comes down to President Trump, as far as addressing that big issue. Did he take it overboard? Some might say he took it overboard, but you have to understand how many people were coming over here, and it's not being some type of accountability organization. And the ones I feel that was mistreated out of all of this, because they come over here and say, you come over here and it's the people over here tell you, oh, well, come over here. It's better jobs over here. You can come in America, work for me, do this, do this. And then you've done all you can. And for what? They tell you, wait, well, you know, you got to go back. I think that is where it is a disservice. Because a lot of them came over here, and I'm not just talking about Mexico. Oh, no. I'm not just talking about that. All right? Because they don't want to talk to you about other countries, other people from other countries that have came over here, right? And they had to be self-deported back or sent back. They don't talk to you about, you know, other countries. So, long story short, let me get back to the focal point. Okay. We do need to get out this government shutdown. We are in day 30 of the government shutdown. And we're 5 days away from being the longest shutdown. Well, I take it back, 6 days away, because the longest government shutdown lasted 35 days. That was back in 2018 during the first term of President Trump. Hopefully it doesn't go past 35 days this go round, because I want people to understand this. As of now already, we have lost $11 billion from this government shutdown so far. So I want you guys to take that in. It is what it is. Going back into the comments, thank you guys for coming in. Shout out to the mod team handling business. Going back into the comments, thank you so much for coming in. Joy says 196 different countries. Yes. Shout out to Joy. Kiddish. Welcome back, Kiddish. Kitty says, let me go back up and read Kitty. Kitty says, yeah, and cattle ranchers are upset about it. Their disability pays their mortgage and bills. When it comes down to, and that is the main reason I cannot agree with the deal or the loan that was given to Argentina of $20 billion. I cannot agree with that because, you know, shout out to Kitty. We talked about that earlier in this live, but the farmers, a lot of the farmers were upset when it came down to with that. Why? Because not only did President Trump do the $20 billion loan to help Argentina, but also when it comes down to, let's talk about it. When it was announced, let's talk about it. In addition to the swap of $20 billion to Argentina, President Trump administration announced this month to increase the U.S. beef import quota from Argentina from 20,000 to 80,000 metric tons. The plan has drawn huge backlash from farmers, specifically ranchers and agricultural groups. Critics argue that this deal with Argentina will undercut the domestic cattle industry and hurt the farmers. Also, U.S. farmers have also been hit in the trade war from Argentina after President Trump levied tariffs earlier this year. And China chose not to pay U.S. soybeans from the U.S. Instead, it chose to buy from Brazil and guess who else? Argentina. Argentina's President Milei temporarily removed export tariffs on many agricultural goods in order to increase the amount of foreign currency flowing into Argentina and help raised the value of the Argentina peso. So when Trump started implementing tariffs on everyone back in April, what did the president of Argentina do? He said, oh, this is a win-win for me. Let's get it up. President mainly took advantage of it, and that is when China brought 7 million metric tons of soybean from Argentina. So this is why, the farmers are saying, well, hey, what is going on? What the heck is going on? We're darn. We can't get, God darn it. What? The little that we was getting is from the soybean profit. God darn it. So now the farmers are upset because it's like, wait a minute. President of Argentina, Milei, he takes advantage and sells to China, right? China ends up buying $7 million worth of soybean from Argentina. Why? Because of the tariffs. Remember the tariffs? That 57% tariffs that was applied on China. That's why I say, President Xi and President Trump, of course they were going to meet. And that's what they did today, this morning, around 4 a.m. Eastern time here in America, that is. They met at the summit, for those that don't know, in Asia, specifically South Korea, APEC summit. And they had a 90-minute conversation. And from that 90-minute conversation, President Trump announced that he was going to drop that 57% tariff down to just 47%. And in addition to that, China, for 1 year, stated they were going to relax when it came down to earth mineral control in China. Because during all this tariff, China had implemented a new form that if you wanted to, quote unquote, bring in something, at least 0.1% of minerals from China or to China, you will have to have a license. But China said they are going to relax that for 1 year for the U.S. Also, I want people to understand this. 90-minute conversation that President Trump and President Xi had in South Korea, they still have not closed in on that TikTok deal yet. So, this is why, here are the U.S. farmers. They're like, we're done. That darn president of Argentina. Not only have they gotten a deal, and see, that's another question, right? They had a 90-minute conversation. What did President Xi have to say about that $7 million that they paid? Well, $7 million worth of soybean that they got from Argentina. Because are you still going to continue to do business with Argentina? See, we have to look at everything. What is Kitty saying? Yes, Kitty, we lost the soybean sales. And this is why the U.S. farmers are like, they're just kind of like, man, we can't get a break. Can't get a break. But I will say this. Joy Carey says, we need to support our farmers and ranchers. We could supply our own beef supply. Yes, We could supply our own beef supply. Texas has been trying to do this. Shout out to Texas. And this is why I say, you know, I want, you know, that's why, you know, I respect when President Trump was running for president. You know, he said, make America great again, bring the business back to America. Bring it back. And the farmers now, they're wondering, well you're taking the business away from us. And that's slick president of Argentina. While all this is going on, he told China, come on, baby, come on, I got a lot of soybeans over here for you. And China hopped on that quick. This is why, you know, it's, you know, some people would say, you know, are we in a quote unquote trade war, tariff trade war? And if so, is that really a good move to make? Because look what has happened. And I'm telling you right now, China, I mean, they better be so grateful to Trump, because I'm telling you right now, had Biden still been in office, there wouldn't be no TikTok in America. And for those who don't know, the person that, you know, spoke about it, one of the people that spoke about TikTok, you know, misusing and making money off of America was President Trump, his first administration. And if people don't know, initially he wanted to ban TikTok. And then once he got out of office and Joe Biden won, Joe Biden agreed with President Trump. Why do I say that? Because he did not remove that ban. And if you guys remember, it was a temporary ban of TikTok here in America. And the ban only got lifted when who went back into office? President Trump. So this is why I say, right, you know, China should be glad, because like I said, you know, not only China, Argentina, when it comes down to Trump. But the question is, how will all of this bring back the business and the money here? Now, when it comes down to billions of dollars as far as investments, various investments, when it comes down to Hyundai, when it comes down to Toyota, when it comes down to who was it? Was it South Korea? South Korea making a deal of building a nuclear submarine here in America. You know, all of these are good deals as far as investments, bringing it back here to America. Right? That's good on the aspect that President Trump has implemented, you know, but I want to say this one more time, right? When will the farmers receive the funding that he spoke about? He said that he would give some of the tariff funds to help relieve some of the stress from the farmers who have been affected from, you know, the shutdown, right? Farmers still haven't received anything yet. Not yet. But Argentina received that $20 billion, that loan. But thank you guys for coming in. You're listening to Politicgram. Thank you so much for coming in. Someone says everyone knows sell SNAP goods for 50% off. That is fraudulent activity that you're speaking about, right? And as of November the 1st, there won't be any SNAP to sell. And as of November the 1st, I hope people, don't panic and come together and help someone that is in need of, food for their family. Kitty says, last I heard, it was $40 billion. Well, they said from what I looked up, I'm gonna look it back up. President Trump stated that he would possibly add an extra $20 billion. Initially, it was $20 billion. Someone says Argentina money was all donation. You know what? $20 billion, that's a whole lot of donation. Considering SNAP costs $9 billion a month here in America for SNAP recipients to be dispersed out to each state. It costs $9 billion. I mean, you tell me. Jessamy says, then the USA beef will be cheaper and the poor can buy it. Go back into the comments. Joy Carey says, imagine being a farmer and the government tells you that you see to use when you know what works for growth without the poison. Joy says, I personally don't see SNAP ever coming back. Whoa, that's deep. Now that's deep, Joy. Let me highlight that. Shout out to Joy. Shout out to Joy. And thank you guys for coming in. You're listening to the Politic Gram. Shout out to everybody in the live. And I will say this. USDA has a lot to address once we get out this shutdown. Not only USDA, because they are the ones when it comes down to being in control of the SNAP, right? But Congress has a lot to address, because, and the reason I'm speaking about this, when it comes down to the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare, when it comes down to the SNAP, these programs are supposed to be meant for people who are under a certain federal poverty level line, right? But it has been misused, right? A lot of people who are supposed to be getting it are not receiving it. And when it comes down to SNAP, a lot of people, well, I'm not gonna say a lot. Let me not say everybody's in the same bucket. But some people, when they receive the SNAP, they sell it. They sell it for monetary value. That's not supposed to be used for that. And this is why we have the question in this live poll. Thank you guys for coming in. Hit that like button, subscribe to the platform. Hello, this is Politic Gram. We have a live poll. Which party do you trust? One moment, ladies and gentlemen. One moment, ladies and gentlemen. One moment, ladies and gentlemen.
Money to start feeding people right away.
The administration has done everything possible to bend over backwards.
The bottom line is they can fund it just as money for Argentina. They have enough money to keep funding SNAP.
Democrats and Republicans, which party do you...
And hello, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Politic Gram. My apologies about that. Now, when it comes down to SNAP, SNAP is one of the programs I do feel it needs to be a reform. It needs to be reformed because, I didn't know. I had a conversation with somebody about this yesterday. I did not know that, when you receive the SNAP benefits every month, it doesn't roll over. Because the lady was telling me, she said she actually works in the grocery store. She was, because I said, why is the grocery store looking like this? I mean, it was like a lot of shelves were empty and a lot of it was more groceries returns than usual. And she told me, she said, yeah, she's like, yeah, a lot of people just been shopping because they know their SNAP it's not it's going to end on November. So a lot of them just been buying, and you know, for what's to come, because they know, she said, the SNAP benefits does not roll, the funds don't roll over. She said whatever you don't use, it goes back, or just it doesn't go to you. It doesn't go on, stay on your card. So I didn't know that. Going back into the comments. Thank you guys for coming in. Joy says, just me, correct basic economics. And shout out to Joy. The other Joy Carey says, times are going to be harder, people. Learn how to garden and grow your own vegetables and fruit. Stock up your pantries. And Joy, what you're saying, Joy Carey, what you're saying, I think that is what, well, you tell me. I think that is what Ronald Reagan spoke about when he stated that welfare is a program that misleads. And he spoke about, you know, Americans needing to be more independent. And what you just stated in your comment, times are going to be harder. Learn how to garden and grow your own vegetables and fruit. Stock up your pantries. This is what, you know, what we're going to have to do. Now, I would say this, I always have a backup plan. Me, I don't know about you guys, okay, but how I was raised, okay, you don't get the quote unquote, you don't get the bread, right? You get the canned goods. You get canned goods, right? Now, yes, you grow your own, you have your own fruits and vegetables in the garden, the vegetables, that is, right? But when it comes down to going to the store, you get food that's going to not expire so quick. You get the canned goods. So, you know, I think right now, what's going on right now, a lot of people are going to have to learn a new way and adapt from what is transpiring right now because of the shutdown. Now I will state this: when I visit the grocery store, lady was telling me, she said that the store that I went to said they are expecting theft to go up. She flat out said it, because she said she has been working at this specific grocery store for over 10 years. And she said, she says, what's been going on now, she says, already been, as far as theft has gone up, but she says they already expect it to even get worse. And I hope the Senate is listening to this and taking all of this in while they're arguing about something, in my opinion, is small. Why do I say it's small? They're arguing about Affordable Care Act, right? That has never been quality. It's never provided the quality in healthcare for the people that it's needed for. Never. Sorry. So now, because you don't get your way, now you have caused more millions and millions of people to not receive SNAP, to not receive WIC. And for those that don't know, Medicaid premiums have gone up, right? You have caused all of this from this government shutdown. And to be fair, according to Dr. Paul, Senator of Kentucky, he stated it. He says he doesn't approve of the Democrat nor the Republicans with how they've been spending money. He said both of them are causing spending to go up than go down. And the way it's looking, he stated that by the year of 2034, Social Security might be depleted. But House of Senate, they want to stand 10 toes down, right along with Shifty Schiff. They want to stand 10 toes down with him. I don't know why. They want to stand 10 toes down with Elizabeth Warren. They want to stand 10 toes down with Maxwell. They want to stand 10 toes down with Chuck Schumer. And the taxpayers and Americans are the ones that are being affected out of all of this. Oh, I forgot. Don't forget about the immigrants. Remember when I talked about the farmers, right? Have been affected, right? From the tariffs, from the shutdown, from everything that's been transpiring, right? Remember I brought that up. Oh, I forgot to talk about that. Gotta talk about that. What happened today? Today, the Trump administration stated that the Department of Homeland Security ruled that extensions of employment authorization document for non-citizens who filed for applications on October the 30th or after, it will end the extension. This new policy eliminates the previous automatic 180 to 540 day extensions, meaning a person's work authorization will now expire on employment authorization documents date. So unless, I just want people to understand this, DHS is saying that if you apply prior to October the 30th, or your expiration date is before October the 30th, you're fine. You're fine. But if it is on October the 30th or after October the 30th, it is not going to be renewed. And DHS stated that the change is to allow for more thorough screening of non-citizens. And because of this, employers, including the farmers, they are now worrying about labor shortages. So now you have more shortages when it comes down to work, right? Then not only that, now you have people that have to go to work, and now they're working without pay. Then to top it all off, right? We're in a shutdown. But hey, you know, AOC and Chuck Schumer, they say they're for us. They speak for families and everybody in a, yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. But thank you guys for coming in. You're listening to Politigram. We do have a live poll. And the poll is, which party do you trust? 47% says Republicans, 26% says Democrat, 11% says Independent, 16% says I plead the fifth. And thank you guys for coming in. You're listening to Politigram. Shout out to everybody in the live. Going back into the comments, family says we need to empower and provide for our citizens first. Shout out to Joy and shout out to Joy Carey, because both of them, I'm going to put what both of you guys said in one. Joy Carey stated it, and I like what she said. She said that, you know, we need to learn how to become more independent by growing our own fruits and vegetables and stocking up on pantries, saving. Joy, other Joy said, my main Joy, said that they don't think SNAP is coming back. And I say, SNAP needs to, if it's going to be on the levels that it has been when it comes down to mishandling and not helping the people that it's intended for, and the ones that receive SNAP, some of them have been abusing it, then SNAP needs to be reformed. It needs to go away, come back again, and be reformed. And help the people that it is supposed to help. And I'm going to give one example. I'm going to use one person that I went to school with as an example. Very smart. I've never met a person that was able to get their associate's degree, bachelor's degree, and master's degree within 4 years. And with her, she was a single mother, is a single mother of not one, not two, but 3 girls. And with her, she was able to get all 3 degrees within 4 years and be a single mom. And I want people to understand this, and she was working. But she was also on welfare, and one of the recipients with SNAP and WIC. And I'll never forget, once she obtained her master's degree and she ended up working for the state, I never forget, she told me, she said, they called me and said I owe them money. I said, well, did you tell them? She was like, no. I said, what, girl? And she told me, she said that she thought that she could still receive, what was it she said? She thought she could still receive, was it, I forget what she called it, benefits. But she said she received a letter. She said first she didn't know until 1 month she didn't get it, and she called. And then she received a letter stating that she owed money. And mind you, she had became a social worker. Now, why did I give that example? I give that example because this is how, you know, the program, some of these programs, they institutionalize people to become complacent and dependent on this weak behind system. And why do I call it weak? I call it weak because it is supposed to help someone, you know, buy a house, obtain real estate, education. I'm just saying, free education, assist in getting a home for your family, not just rent. But it keeps people complacent with being used by the system and not finding a way to get out of the system to help someone. That is why I don't like, you know, when it comes down to some of these programs. Because like I said, I knew someone went to school, smart as a whistle. Smart as a whistle. I told her, I said, when she graduated, I broke down and I cried. I said, I salute you. I've never met her. I'm serious. Even to this day, I've never met someone like her. After all she went through, and she had a daughter that was a teenager that was giving her problems her last 2 semesters of school. And she made that decision to quit her job so she can lock in with her teenage daughter, but not giving up with finishing and becoming a social worker. I never met somebody like her, ever. But remember what I said, even with that, she still was thinking that she could still receive funds. But they told her, no, you got to pay us back. But thank you guys for coming in. Now, I will say this, okay? Oh, wait. What do you guys talk about in the comments? Wait. Don't argue. Hold on. What's going on now? I didn't say somebody getting 20. I never said it. I never said that, Kitty. Never said that, Kitty. But like I stated, that's why I tell people, because, people have those stereotypes when they say, oh, people who are on welfare and Section 8, they not this. No. We're not I'm not going to downplay people that are, welfare recipients. I'm not going to sit here and speak down on somebody. No, because I just gave you an example of somebody that was on welfare. And now she is a person that's a social worker, and she told me that she was the first person in her household to graduate, and she said she had that conversation with her daughter to tell her, if I can do it, I want you to get at least a bachelor's degree, because I don't want you to be out there in the streets like I was. That's the type of conversation that she had with her daughter. And those are the type of conversations that I feel these programs need to have when it comes down to a lot of, people who receive, funds. But shout out to Kitty. I salute you, Kitty. Look, don't let these people in the chat get you now. Don't let them get you, Kitty. Don't let these people in the chat get you. And please, ladies and gentlemen, please don't argue in the chat. I respect everybody's views and opinion, and I ask that you respect, people's experiences and people's experiences and views, right? Going into comments. Hello, Storm. Storm says, my wife's childhood best friend got pregnant in high school, has never worked a day in life, gets SNAP, WIC, food stamp, Section 8 housing, and cash assistant. She gets raises for having more kids. Whoa. Now, I'm going to say this. Everybody that receives, welfare, I'm not on it. I'm not on it. But I'm not going to sit here and say everybody that receives government funding is a bad apple, right? You might Storm, you might have that one bad apple that takes advantage of the system. And that's one of the reasons, Ronald Reagan, he spoke about, being independent, right? Not depending on welfare that is a system used to keep you institutionalized as a form to control you, to always be what? Part of the poor, low income, bottom of that federal poverty line. Because what is that old saying? The rich get richer and the poor get poor, right? That's another way of controlling and putting you in your place by saying, here you go. You don't ever have to work anymore. Here you go. Take this. Take these funds. Here you go. So that's why we need to have some type of reform. We have to have some type of reform. That's why a lot of immigrants, when they come over here, right, they come over here and say, whoa, it is It is Disney World over here. Wow. What? This person, they don't have to do nothing? What? When I tell you, the journalist, I forget his name, journalist that was arrested here in Georgia, he was arrested by ICE. I want people to understand this. He made 6 figures a year while over here in America working as a freelance reporter. And mind you, he did not have his citizenship. Mind you, not only did he not have his citizenship, but the judge told him that he would have to go back. And then the same immigration system told him, well, we're going to close your case. Mind you, he was over here for, I want to say almost 10 years or over 10 years, making 6 figures a year. He ends up getting self-deported back to El Salvador. And he stated that because of his experience, he was offered not 1 but 2 jobs. But he says because of his huge social media platform on multiple accounts where he has over 1 million followers, he says, I'm going to continue working as a reporter, freelance reporter. And he said, but I want to come back to America. I want to come back to America. And he even said, if I come back to America, I promise I will never report about ICE. Because that's where he was arrested. He was arrested while reporting an ICE raid. So take that in for what it is, right? But thank you guys for coming in. You're listening to Politigram. We do have a live poll. Oh Lord, here we go. I got to remove somebody. You have been impeached. I had to remove somebody. You have been impeached. Shout out to the mod team holding it down. I've taken care of them. One of them anyway. But thank you guys for coming in. You're listening to Politigram. Hit that like button, subscribe to the platform. We do have a live poll. Which party do you trust? 47% says Republican, 26% says Democrat, 11% says Independent, and 16% says I plead the fifth. Also, if you would like to support this platform and you enjoy what you have heard so far as not only because of this chat, right? Shout out to the chat. We do accept super stickers where your name will be put in the blue banner that is going across the screen. And last but not least, hit that like button. You're listening to Politigram. This is a platform where we welcome everybody, no matter what party you are, no matter what race you are. We welcome everybody. Thank you so much. You're listening to Politigram. Reading the comments. Marie says, getting an American citizenship green card is expensive and they make people wait years to get it. Shout out to Marie. You're absolutely right, because that is one reason I say the system, let the immigrants down. Because I'm standing on this. It makes no sense for somebody to come over here, if they come over here legally, the right way, right? It makes no sense for somebody to be over here working, paying taxes, and they do their part, but they're still not able to receive permanent citizenship for 5 years, 10 years. Makes no sense. But thank you guys for coming in. You're listening to Politigram. Shout out to everybody in the live. Desmond says a reporter has to report and not select what to report, so he better stay where he is now. Whoa, Desmond! Wow. But thank you guys for coming in. Shout out to everybody reading the comments. And hello, Billy. Billy says Trump is a genius and the boss, and Trump 2020. So Trump 2028, please. Now, I'm glad you put that. For those that don't know, due to the amendments, right, President Trump cannot run a third time. Okay? Once again, for those that don't know, President Trump cannot run a third time. And for those that don't know, it is under Amendment 22. And it reads to the United States limits the number of times it limits the number of times a person can be elected to the office of president of the United States to twice. Okay, so they can only be president 2 times. Amendment 22 states that. So, I want people to understand that. That yes, a lot of people may want President Trump to be president a third time, but it can't happen. Okay? I don't know how it would happen, but it can't happen. And President Trump did state that recently. Yes, Marie says president terms is 8 years if reelected. Wait. I'm referring everybody to the Constitution under Amendment number 22. Okay? Don't get mad at me. Get mad at the founders of the Constitution. Don't get mad at me. Also, President Trump has, stated that, he knows that. So he knows that he can't run anymore. And his exact words is, he says, we have good people, basically stating that he has a good team, that if JD Vance want to run for it, if Marco Rubio want to run for president, they have showing under his administration that they are doing a phenomenal job, according to him. Right? Now, JD Vance, I'm still giving the side eye. Now, Marco Rubio, okay. I can see Marco Rubio running for president. But JD Vance, I'm like, oh, yeah, well, we'll see. Give him time. Well, thank you guys for coming in. You're listening to Politigram. Thank you so much for coming in. You're listening to Politigram. Hit that like button. We do have a live poll. And hello, how are you doing? Thank you so much. Somebody in the comments says there are people who rely on SNAP that truly need it, and the kids didn't do anything wrong. You're absolutely right, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about the bad apples with an S that give the people that makes it harder for the people that truly need it. They're not able to get it. So, like I stated, I think you're just coming in. Someone who said that comment in the chat, but I did give an example of one person that I actually knew personally, was a mother of 3, single mother, was able to get their associates, bachelor's, and master's within 4 years, while being a person on welfare and working as well. So thank you guys for coming in. You're listening to Politigram. Going back into comments, someone says, who's going to be AOC? Bernie Sanders in 2028, Jasmine Crockett, Hakeem Jeffries. I'm going to say this. I don't think Jasmine Crockett or Hakeem Jeffries are going to run for president of 2028. I think Jasmine Crockett has a lot of hot air. Yes, she knows how to deliver a speech. Yes, 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 yes. Hakeem, same for him. Okay, shout out to New York. However, I don't think they see themselves as being the face for the Democrat Party as far as running for president. I don't see it at all. I don't see it. I don't see it. Now AOC, I don't know. Maybe AOC. Maybe. But thank you guys for coming in. I had a great live. Hello, Eric. Eric says Democrats had 270,000 on Social Security. Woo! I ain't gonna do it. I'm not gonna mention no names, Eric. And hello, Calvin. Welcome, Calvin. I'm just not seeing you. Calvin says, I don't know Vance and Rubio both qualify for kissing. Woo! Calvin, now you know I can't say it. I can't say that. You trying to get me in trouble on YouTube. But thank you guys for coming in. Bert says JD Vance can't debate, period. I think JD Vance knows how to get people talking. He knows how to get people talking. One person that I know can talk, okay, know how to sell a tune. As far as on the Republican side goes, okay, I'll say the Republican side. I would say Mark Rubio, okay, and he will sell a tune with facts, okay, facts. I repeat, facts. JD Vance, he comes with his facts, but it can be kind of cloudy. It can be kind of cloudy. It can be kind of cloudy. Gavin Newsom, are you asking about what I think about Gavin Newsom? I think Gavin Newsom, if you guys do your research, he was once part of the Republican crew. So I'm gonna let you, take that for what it is. Take that for what it is. Now, I do feel when it comes down who will be the face of the Democrat Party, Gavin Newsom might be the face of the Democrat Party. I don't see anybody else running. I mean, that would be bold enough to do it. I don't see it. I don't see it. And you have a good day. You have a good day. I'm not going to say your name, but all I'm going to say is that's what your mama said. That's what your daddy said. How about that? That's what your mama and your daddy said. I'm not going to say your name, but you're not finna disrespect people in the chat. You're not finna definitely disrespect me. No. So you have a good day. But thank you guys for coming in. Shout out to everybody in the live. Shout out to everybody in the live. We do have a live poll. But in the meantime, in between time, hit that like button, subscribe to the platform. Hello, how are you doing? This is Politic Graham. We are going to go to a brief commercial break. Thank you guys for coming in. If you would like your name to be mentioned in the blue banner that's going across the screen, we do accept super stickers as well as rubies.